Good evening, everybody. Congratulations to all inductees. My name is Jim Zalzik. I was with Juniata basketball from 1980 to 1996 for 16 years. The last 6 years I was the head coach. And I coached a fellow by the name of Casey Craig for 3 out of his 4 years here at Juniata. Obviously, I don't need to give you any stats. You have the stats right there in your program. I will give you 3 very short stories about Casey as an individual to show you his character, what kind of guy he is, his sense of loyalty and integrity. I have to first start with a little bit about myself so I can relate this to Casey, but in 1976, I had a decision to make in Indianapolis. Do I want to take this business opportunity or get back to Huntington and do what I really want to do is teach and coach? I decided to come back to Huntington. The first opportunity I got, I felt good in football, basketball, and baseball, but the first opportunity I got to coach was in football and in basketball, and soon was hired by Dan Helm, and in 1990 became the head coach. Soon thereafter, becoming the head coach, I go to Westmont High School to recruit Casey Craig. So story number 1 about Casey. In his final game at Westmont, it was a playoff game, and Casey's team was losing pretty bad at the end of the game. 3 minutes left in the game. Westmont was losing by 20, 25 points. So both coaches put all the sophomores in the game. And Casey's career was coming to an end at Westmont. Everybody was substituted except for Casey. He stayed on the floor because Casey had 999 points in high school, and his coach wanted him to hit that one last basket for 1,000. In those final 3 minutes, as I'm watching this, Casey passed up shot after shot after shot. He was creating openings for his sophomore teammates to get shots. And when the game was over, he never did get that 1,000th point. That's Casey Craig right there. He's just thinking about the sophomores that probably never got on a varsity court yet, and he would drive and try to get them shots, and he never did get that 1,000 points. My second story on Casey is just how coachable he was. He came into the league with a reputation as a three-point shooter, and he made his mark in that freshman year. And I talked to him after the season and said, "You're going to be targeted next year by the opposing coaches. They're going to start pressing out on you and make you put the ball on the floor. You're going to have to learn to drive to the basket, and that's going to create some shots for you on the perimeter, but you got to take it to the basket." And he worked on that. If you look at the statistics of Casey in his sophomore year, he went to the foul line 3 times more than he did in his freshman year. And I looked at his junior year this afternoon and his senior year. Each year he kept going to the foul line more and more, and he was able to develop a 2-pronged attack. That he was a good 3-point shooter, but also he would drive to the basket and he knew how to draw fouls. And that's Casey Craig right there. My third story is a little dark, so in the last 10 minutes I crossed this out and crossed this out. I want to keep it on the light side. But in my final year, we had 3 kids that quit 1 week before the season, and I was pretty dejected about it. Talked to Larry Bach about it, etc. And I was about done. I'm a part-time coach, and I was the only part-time coach in the league, actually, out of 18 teams. And I was about shot. The next day on Tuesday, we got a weekend tournament at Mount Union College in Ohio, 4 days from now. And I'm in my office, and Casey Craig, Darren Hazel, who's here tonight, and Rob Sharkey come in my office and said, "Coach, We can pull this together. I want to make sure I have these words right, because this is basically what I heard from them. The season needs to be enjoyable. With these three guys gone now, the locker room is a lot tighter and a lot closer now. These guys just didn't get along with anybody. With the remaining players, we care about one another and we work harder, as opposed to having a situation where we may add a few more wins but suffer headache after headache during the season. We can pull this together. And that was Casey Craig. That's the leadership in Casey Craig to help me pull myself together after these three guys quit. And finally, the following year, I think all this could be related, but the following year, Juniata College went to a full-time coach and Rick Ferry came in. So during Casey's senior year, I came up to the last home game to see Casey play, and he was introduced, and there was 5 seniors on that team that was being recognized, and a student manager that the players wanted him to suit up and play. He was a senior also, and he was a real workaholic kind of kid. Well, with 5 seniors and the player manager, Casey was volunteered to say, I'll sit out the first 4 minutes of the game, so that Chris, I think his name was Chris was able to get into the game and play for 3 or 4 minutes. Once again, that's Casey Craig. Statistics aside, this is the kind of man you want in your Hall of Fame. Casey, I appreciate the honor of giving this introduction to you. It makes that decision I made back in 1976, getting into coaching, well worth it. So that said, as Casey works his way up here, I would like to introduce his wife, Erin, and Grant. You want to stand up? Mom and Dad, Kim and Debbie. Very proud parents, I'm sure. Casey Craig.
Thank you, Coach, for those kind words. I know there's a bunch of student athletes in here, and if I were to tell you, if I came to Juniata, if someone were to call me selfless, coachable, and a leader, I would say, boy, I accomplished something during my time. So thank you for those kind words. And I'm glad you went that route, because when you said I got a few stories about Casey, my wife's hair usually stands up on the back of her neck. We've been together since my junior year of high school, after my junior year, so she's heard some stories. Coach Zalzig actually was the one that really kind of got me on to Juniata College. He always spoke about such great passion and conviction about this school. And it's hard for a 17-year-old to really understand the value proposition of a liberal arts school. The close-knit community, the small classrooms. And so I really thank you, Coach, for being able to connect with me and allow me to spend what would be some of the best years of my life. I'd also like to thank the Juniata College Hall of Fame Committee for honoring me as part of this awesome 2014 class. I do remember seeing some of the players play. Roger, vertical, I remember like it was yesterday. I remember like shooting free throws, and sometimes they'd get stuck in the rim, and you would be done with practice, and I'd say, hey, jump up there and grab it for me, because I couldn't jump that high. Thanks for that help. To the faculty, staff, and the coaches here tonight, students as well, thank you for leading our alma mater as well. As I collected my thoughts for tonight, I thought about a video I received back in May. It was a commencement speech, ironically enough. It was done by the mayor of Hawaii, a guy by the name of Billy Kenoi, which is interesting because I had to kind of Google. I didn't realize the Hawaiian island had a mayor. I know this isn't the academic award ceremony, so I had to check that out. But they do, in fact, have a mayor. And he had a great message for Hawaii Pacific University. And he kept reinforcing it, and he would say this: the more you give, the more you get. The more you give, the more you have. And that really stuck with me as I thought through tonight in Juniata College. I'd like to give thanks to some of those folks that gave me a lot during my time here, and some others. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Laxo, who's here tonight with his wife Bonnie. Dr. Laxo, many of you know, gave nearly 40 years of his life to Juniata and continues to give his life here to the community. I was fortunate enough to have many of his classes. He was also my academic advisor, so I'd always pop in his office, and I had this crazy idea that I wanted to work in sports. In the 90s, that was a crazy idea, especially I knew I wasn't going to be a player, obviously, so to be in the front half of the staff of sports, and he was so instrumental in helping me navigate the waters to be able to do that and land my first job after grad school with the Boston Celtics. So thank you for your time and consideration of this. Thank you, Dr. Laxo. Also, Coach Barry, who couldn't be here tonight, our baseball coach, he's a legend here at the school, a product of the Dodger organization, a Hall of Famer himself. He kind of took a militaristic approach to our team, which for a 17-year-old can always be hard to adapt to, especially as a freshman. I came here as a shortstop with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, thinking I could be the next Cal Ripken. I started as shortstop in the fall, went to the spring, the football team guys came over, and all of a sudden I was at second base. And I really didn't know a whole lot of second basemen, famous ones at the time. So we had a discussion. He was open to talk to me. And in his own way, the conversation was kind of abruptly, and he looked me right in the eyes and said, "Craig, it will not be efficient for me to have a cutoff man from your throws from shortstop first." And that was his way of saying you've got a weak arm, so you're going over to second base. And I tried to be the best second baseman that this school would ever see. And that, to me, was very eye-opening to say, hey, the team comes first. There is no I in team. I'd also like to thank Coach Zalzig again. Later in my career, Coach Barry and Coach Curley, who's here tonight. It's been a pleasure to watch Coach Curley's teams win. As of late, especially in the program that he's run. All of these men would instill the importance of working hard, working together. They made the game that I love so much a lot of fun too, and we were really competitive as heck. Some great wins come to mind at York, at Carnegie Mellon, great comeback wins. There were also some tough losses too. I believe one of our games is actually still in the NCAA record books. My freshman year, we were at King's College. Unbelievable comeback. We were down 20 points in the second half. We rallied back to get into overtime. In overtime, in all fairness, we got a couple bad calls, Coach. We would just get nipped at the buzzer by 27 points in overtime. That's really hard to do. I mean, even with, I think we just didn't even go out on the floor that we had a hard time scoring 27 points. But Coach was a great motivator, I'll give him that. But, the whole comeback, speed, stick in, that's tough to do when you're down 27. But that, another overcoming adversity and being able to brush yourself off, I think that as well. A couple quick thank yous as well. I could take all my allotted time up here to describe the many ways I'm so thankful for my parents who are here, Kim and Debbie Craig. Not only would I literally not be here tonight without them, but none of my accomplishments through my life would be possible without their constant love and support, and I thank you for that. I hope they understand how much that I truly love them, thank them for the amazing example that they've set in way of hard work, love, sometimes tough love, which I've needed quite a bit, generosity and concern for others. Thank you. My wife Erin and my son Grant rather. Lily is my daughter who is in a strenuous play right now. I'm able to miss that. She'll be here tomorrow. I've been fortunate enough to marry my best friend. We've been together since 1992, and she's a wonderful wife and mother, and thank you for being by my side. Also, some family members, my grandmother's here, 86 years old, Juanita Reynolds. A couple of changes to her name, and we're close to Juniata, so Juanita, thank you for being here. Her and my grandfather would always call me. He passed away close to 10 years ago, and they would call me weekly and check in and see how class was going and how sports were going, and those calls meant so much. And they would send money, snack money, and that always went towards snacks. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to my uncle and aunt who are here as well from New England, who might win the travel award. Your love and support through the years and your mentorship has meant so much to me, so thank you for making the trip down. I have a lot of teammates and friends here as well. I can't thank you enough for your presence. Many of you have traveled distance, so thank you for what you've shown. I've been so blessed to have strong, tight relationships with so many of you that are here. I don't know a better example of the term extended family. So I truly appreciate that. We're a band of brothers, and I'm blessed to have you in my life. In closing, I'd just like to congratulate my fellow inductees, Bernie Schwartz, Bob, Rod, Bernie, Carrie, and Brandy. It's really an honor to be part of this distinguished class, very decorated. And it's a great feeling to know. I think when you always come back to Huntington and Juniata, it feels like home. And so it's great to have a place kind of permanently here. So thank you so much for the award, and go Eagles.